Determination of a quorum. We have everybody. All right, fantastic. The Board of Education will move to executive session to discuss other matters, the disclosure of which would result in an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. Motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
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 Motion carries unanimously. So if everybody could join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you, Bill. To the United States of America,
America,
and
to the republic,
for which
which
it stands,
stands
one nation, under God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice
justice
for
for
all. I don't know who started that, but thank you. I just jumped in wherever you were. So thank you for that. And welcome to everybody who has joined us tonight. We appreciate you coming out. Well, we're logging in, I should say. And it actually, I'm sitting by my window. I think I'm glad I'm not out. It sounds like there's a downpour happening right about now. So,
Yeah.
Okay. The first thing we have here is the superintendent's report. We're going to get a presentation by Ms. Laughlin on the reserve plan. And then we have a whole bunch of committee reports. Yes?
Yes. What I would do is I would ask Mr. Nopi to please make Ms. Laughlin a host on this meeting. And then Carrie Laughlin will share her screen, and we will be delighted by a presentation from the lovely Ms. Laughlin.
All right, there you go, your co-host.
Okay.
Holy macaroni.
Okay, so we're going to just bring an updated plan to the board and to the public on our reserves as a whole for the district. If you recall, last year in December of 2019, the Board of Education had adopted a district-wide reserve plan. This was the first time we had done something like this. We always discuss the reserves during our financial planning process and budget process, but this is the first time we actually put together a plan of what our intention is with each of the reserves, defining them, and how we're going to use them moving forward. So the plan does describe each of them. It gives us our year-end balances, as well as what our proposed use is for the current year or future years with the budget process. It's updated annually upon the completion of financial statements, and you may know we just exited audit committee, so the board did just receive the financial statements, so we are at a good place right now, ahead of schedule than we were last year in order to get this up and information out to the public. So the purpose of a reserve plan, reserves are funds that are allowed to be used by the schools, and they're set by education law or general municipal law as to how we can fund them and how we can expend them. They set guidelines for our administrators to follow as we do our budget planning on an annual basis. And our goal is to maintain appropriate fund balance in our reserves to give us a little bit of a safety net. It's a savings account for specific purposes, which helps the solvency and educational solvency and fiscal solvency for the district. So we have updated our 2021 plan to include some COVID-19 legislation that was recently passed. And that legislation happened in August of 2020. The governor signed into law the fact that school districts can go ahead and use some of their reserves and transfer them to help offset some of the spending related to COVID-19 pandemic that we're currently experiencing. It authorizes a temporary transfer of money from the reserve to pay for operating costs or any other costs related to the pandemic itself. We have to reimburse the fund of which we pulled the money out of at a period of no more than 5 years, and we start with the following school year from which we pulled the money out. And it's got to be at least 20% of the amount transferred from the reserve, as well as an estimated amount that we would have received on interest from investing that money. So we'll just go back to recap 2019-20 and our status for the reserves. If you recall, last year, we did pull money out of the repair reserve. The board did a hearing on that and authorized spending in order to repair the gym floor at the high school. That amounted to $73,208. We closed out our year with an unassigned fund balance hitting our maximum level of 4%. And we also maintained our 1.1 million of appropriated fund balance through savings on the expenditure side of the budget. So as we go into 2020-2021 school year, in our budget process, the board did authorize an allocation as revenue from three different reserves. Our unemployment reserve, $35,000 to help offset some of the COVID pandemic expense that we're experiencing. The employee retirement reserve, $739,000, is helping to pay for the annual costs as it relates to the employee retirement system. And the teacher's retirement reserve, which was just established last year, we pulled $100,000 to help offset some of that expenditure as well. We also did maintain the 1.1 million assigned fund balance to the 2020-2021 school year. So for the COVID-19 use of reserves, our goal in taking advantage of the legislation was to enhance our instructional effectiveness with the one-to-one computer initiative. So back in September, on the 16th, the Board of Education authorized withdrawal of these funds to provide us to purchase Chromebooks for our students that are on distance learning and to provide equity for all of those students, whether they're in person or at home learning. So we did pull $212,000 out of the liability reserve. This allowed us to purchase 450 Chromebooks. We ended last year, 2019-20, with $574,000 in that reserve. And that reserve is just holding stagnant right now, for lack of a better word. There is no need or any particular use for that reserve, so that's why we were comfortable in utilizing that particular one to help us with this expenditure in the need that we have right now. We do have to pay back that $212,000 over the course of the next 5 years with 20%. So that will start with our budget appropriations next year, and we will revisit that as we go through the budget process to re-inform the community and the board of that expense. So for 2021, 2022, we are also continuing to look at a capital reserve. If you recall last year, we did have this on as a goal to establish this. However, with the Board of Education budget vote happening in late June, not knowing what was happening, we had quite a few propositions on the ballot. We decided it would be prudent to hold off on going through this process and try to now, we'll go revisit it as we go through the budget process this year and inform the voters of what our plan is for it, with the hopes that we can try to get this established. Any questions from the board with regards to reserves?
Carrie, can you go back to page 6 for 1 second?
This one?
So, right. So the last meeting, the September 16th, the employee retirement reserve, we funded some of that money back, right? Because you applied the budget last year, 739,627 was applied, but you were putting some money from 19-20 budget into that reserve to help offset that. Is that right?
Correct. We put just over 200,000 into that reserve with the savings we had from last school year. So it's the goal with that, all of these reserves. The goal is to utilize the reserve and then hopefully see savings within the end of the school year that you can fund back those reserves. So, you know, while we're pulling a big chunk of the employee retirement reserve out, we have about 1.4 million in there. Pulling out 700,000, that puts it down to half of what we're currently at. Our goal would be the end of this school year, whatever we have left, to put back into that reserve as well, to try to get it back up to that level of which we just closed this past school year out.
Okay. Because that, yeah, that's a big chunk. Yeah.
That was from the ERS that you put it back in?
Correct.
Okay.
Because TRS is capped a little bit more stringent on the TRS side. That reserve was just, like I said, created last year as legislation just passed last year for that. You're only allowed to put 2% of the preceding year's salaries into it, and your max contribution is limited as well to the reserve as a whole. So last year we fully funded that reserve. It was about 362,000. This year we could have put about 400,000 into it. But we did decide, since we're pulling so much money out of the employee retirement reserve, that it would be best to put all those funds back into there to replenish what we're going to use this year.
Thank you.
Yep. Anything else from the board?
No, sounds like we're good, Carrie. Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks.
We got committee reports now?
All right. Thank you, Kerry. That was great. Yes, I want to move on. Bill, if you could, as I'm kind of pushing around and talking about some committee reports here, if you could just also make now me a co-host, I will. I'll be talking about board goals in a little bit. But you know, we do have a number of board committees this year, so I'd like to just take a look at that. We have several of our committees have already met or are meeting in the next week. And so I'll kind of, we'll move around the room a little bit. I'll toss to Raina, who can give us a quick update on our Curriculum and Instruction Committee.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. So our first Curriculum and Instruction Committee met yesterday at 3:30, and we really immediately got into some of the challenges at hand in terms of curriculum, instruction, and particularly in the area of assessment. So we quickly delved into the topic of assessment, the challenges of assessment that teachers, students, parents are facing in the hybrid and remote learning world. We discussed several applications that teachers are using, and some discussion from community members who are also teachers, suggestions and things that they have been using. And really, this is an ongoing discussion, whether we're in the hybrid scenario or not. But the building leaders really are kind of funneling their teacher feedback, things that are working really well with teachers in classes, and are charged with sharing that to the larger building faculty groups. So they are setting up their own individual building level committee assessment communication, either via email, feedback groups, smaller committee, subcommittee groups, to tackle the challenge of making assessment fair and equitable in the hybrid remote learning experience, because it is tremendously challenging. To not have teachers have to reinvent some of their tried and true assessments, to take a look also at how formative assessments can better, support the instruction in the hybrid model out there in the educational community. That's the topic of, how do we use formative assessments to balance some of our traditional end of unit types of assessments. So that was the bulk. It was a lengthy conversation focused on assessment. That was the bulk of our conversation. Our next meeting will be, is tentatively scheduled for Election Day at 3:30, probably via Zoom again. And another committee meeting that's coming up, Facilities Advisory Committee. Our first meeting is scheduled for 5 o'clock, October 28th, prior to the Board of Education meeting. And our committee meeting dates will all be posted right on the website, right where the Board of Education meeting dates are.
Thank you, Raina. Another, the new standing committee that the board put together this year, we decided and placed, as you'll see in a little while, as a pretty prominent goal for us is the idea of diversity, equity, inclusivity. And Ricardo Soto is going to be chairing that committee. So Ricardo has put together some notes on that, and he'll tell you a little bit about when that's meeting.
Sure. Let me just unmute myself. Thank you, Bill. Oops. No, I can't unmute. Yeah. Can everyone hear me? I apologize. Good evening, everyone. We are starting the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusivity Committee. We are going to meet for the first time next week. That will be Thursday, October 15th at 3:30. The meeting will be via Zoom. We are really excited to start this very important work. Some of the things that we're going to look at is the demographics of the district. How do we define diversity, equity, and inclusivity as a district from different stakeholder perspectives? And we're going to eventually look at text. We're looking at various perspectives regarding what does that look like, and how do we sort of as a district wrap our heads around it, and how do we conform or convert the culture of our district in terms of its curriculum, in terms of the language that we use on a day-to-day basis with our students, with our community, to be more culturally sensitive and mindful of what that language would be and how that could be impactful on the work that we do moving ahead. In addition to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusivity Committee that we're having next week at 3:30 on October 15th, once again, everyone will be welcome to join. The invite will be on the website in the same location on the website as the Board of Education invite. So please, if anyone is interested in participating, I welcome as many voices as possible in that conversation. The other committee that we are going to have next week is the Technology Committee. I think everything that we are hearing regarding COVID-19 and the distance learning model that we're currently using, the hybrid model, is really contingent on the effective utilization of technology. So we're going to have a discussion regarding the technology that we're currently using, the software, the hardware perspective, and how can we enhance that platform to ensure that we are including every student in the education platform, where we are celebrating equity, where we are trying to design a system that every student can feel that they are participating in as equal a fashion as possible. So that is on Tuesday of next week, and once again, it will be at 3:30, and it will be conducted via Zoom. Those are the two committees that we have coming up next week.
Okay, thank you, Ricardo.
You're welcome.
And, you know, just kind of dovetailing on Mr. Soto's comments about the DEI committee. Clayton Huey also has a cultural awareness committee that met today. And I know Ms. Jackson is on the call, and I thought she did a great job facilitating that today. So placing that as a clear priority in our school. A couple of other committees that we have, Courtney Fabian will be chairing the Health and Wellness Committee, and Dennis Ritchie will be chairing the Emergency Preparedness Committee. So a couple others that are coming up. Danielle Bench and myself are looking for more people for our legislative committee. I've already begun some preliminary things with the legislative committee. I've had several meetings, in particular just around preliminary advocacy work. Clearly, with threats of state aid being cut and the 20% withholding that we saw early on, we certainly don't want to see any further cuts. A lot of that may be contingent upon getting some federal emergency stimulus money. So I have been talking with both Fred Thiel and Senator Martinez in just one-on-one conversations about that. Also talking about some of the regulatory flexibility with regard to use of reserves. So we have had some pretty substantive conversation about those things, and do hope that our legislature will be able to secure some more federal funding, as well as consider many of the things that would help our districts at a time when we certainly need it. So that's pretty much where we're going to be heading with some of our legislative priorities. But that committee will be meeting in the coming weeks as well. As both Ricardo and Raina indicated, all the district committees are open committees. If people would like to join the committees, you can contact jbarr@cmschools.org, and Janine Barr would be happy to include you in the committees. And again, they all will be posted on our district website if they are not yet. So quick update on that. So what I'll do now is I'm going to share my screen and talk a little bit about some of the district goals that we put together. So I'm not going to spend as much time because most of these were presented, and there have not been significant modifications to our administrative goals and our Board of Education goals. But I will go through and say we are following the SMART goal format. Just need to, I am on a PC for the first time in a long time, and it's not working for me. So our goal number one, as I stated several weeks ago when we first presented, is this idea of the 21st century learning environment that the board is dedicated to providing the necessary, everything necessary to ensure district facilities are well maintained and promote positive and safe 21st century learning environment. Essentially, all of these goals, whether it be, a 5-year capital plan, creating efficiencies and exploring alternative methods, these are all things that we continue to do. I mean, just this past week, we are looking at an IMA, an intermunicipal agreement with our town to purchase gasoline, for our vehicles, which would save significantly as they don't pay tax. So even things like that, just to look at every possibility to save money. And then, certainly in these goals in this 21st century learning environment, some of the things that are priorities this year turned into some things around COVID and things that we needed to focus on in terms of cleaning, sanitization, and just really re-examining everything we do to keep kids and staff safe. Certainly a capital reserve is always a good idea. We don't want to give up on that idea, although we did not do it last year because we had multiple things on our ballot. We believe that a capital reserve is something that we would like to have moving forward. Our second goal is around fiscal and educational solvency in the tax cap environment. And I think obviously this is a not just the tax cap, but in a stressful economic climate. Clearly, the updated reserve plan is something that we knew we needed to work on. That was presented earlier today, but including some of the COVID-related language with the reserves was something that we needed to certainly include in there, as well as our updated four-year financial plan that will be forthcoming in the next month or two. Ensuring equitable access to technology resources. We talked about, again, tying into those reserves and making sure that we are working toward a one-to-one initiative so that we can, in fact, have universal access for all kids to the technology they need to be successful, especially in this environment. And then certainly a capital outlay project that would enable us to do capital work and get state aid on it, as opposed to treating it like a repair reserve type project. Clearly, education and student agency is one of the most important things that we focus on, and having students take control over their learning. So students are self-directed learners. The board is dedicated to supporting inquiry-based curriculum initiatives and professional development that aligns to rigorous academic standards and the social and emotional needs of all students. A lot of this comes out of many of the initiatives we have that, K-12, a focus on teaching and learning that is aligned to the International Baccalaureate. Although state ed puts out paperwork that refers to it as the Bachelorette program, we are true to the Baccalaureate program. And Raina will appreciate that.
No bachelor.
We all appreciate that.
And that's true. That is a true story, actually. But establishing a comprehensive educational plan, this year that really focused on in-person, remote, and hybrid learning models and blending them and moving seamlessly from one to the other was something that was clearly an important and, I won't say monumental, but a pretty heavy lift for us since March of last year, and we worked through that. But continuing much of our work with IB, as you know, we have an MYP in terms of the middle school, the middle years program, and our diploma program is a new program for us. It's exciting. It is one of the most, or if not the most prestigious thing a district can have in its arsenal in terms of providing opportunity for kids. So we are encouraged by that, and we have several students, upwards of 22 to 25 students that are enrolled in IB classes this year. As a first year, we think that that's very encouraging and a wonderful opportunity for them to take. But clearly, our focus is on an individualized educational plan for kids, so that all students can continue an upward trajectory of student performance. And so really examining data, utilizing benchmark assessments and things like that. Clearly, this last year was a little bit more challenging in terms of utilizing real assessment data from formal sources. However, local measures and formative assessments really guiding what we do in the classroom so that we can target instruction to where kids are at and what they need to be successful. Certainly enhancing and services through our counseling center. We want to make sure, one of the comments at the last meeting was, some of these things, the National Honor Society, some of the clubs that kids participate in, those are things that differentiate them. We don't want our kids to lose out on those opportunities, and clearly we have begun, and you'll see on our agenda today, there are several of those things the advisorships have been approved so that we can move forward with those. Our fourth goal is in the area of communication and community engagement. Clearly, our community is the backbone of our school, and we really want to be open, transparent, and engage with them. So the board is clearly dedicated to building trust and community support for our school system. We seek to enhance relationships by strengthening partnerships with community groups and endeavor to be self-reflective and responsive to internal and external feedback. So those kinds of things, and celebrating the achievements in our school and amongst our students and staff is paramount in terms of what we do. So in enhancing the district's image, obviously leveraging social media and the different things that we can to try to make sure that what we're putting out there is positive and people can get behind and build upon community spirit for our school is certainly something that we want to emphasize. And then utilizing everything we can to try to communicate more effectively with our, utilizing these Zoom meetings. We've seen, high levels of participation, upwards of 80 people at the last meeting were included. I think we had 30 on when I checked a little while ago. So, we're trying to leverage the technology, and when we get back to in-person meetings, which we anticipate for the October 28th meeting, we will continue to live stream and have the ability for people to get into a chat feature. So those technologies clearly are things that allow the community to get right into and see what we're doing at their convenience. But certainly we welcome the day when everybody can be in the room together. And one of the things we know and identified is the need to look at our policy book so that our policy is aligned to the community values and what we are doing here in school. One of the big initiatives we have, and it is weaved to all of the goals, but goal 5 is diversity, equity, inclusivity to foster a positive school culture. We really pledge to operate within the school's mission statement and use this as well as district policy to create policies and procedures that support equitable practices to ensure educational excellence for all students within the Center Moriches Union Free School District. We have, as we discussed earlier, the DEI committee, and we want that committee to really do some good work. This is our second year in our partnership with the Long Island Consortium for Equity. Excuse me, I'm again having that technology problem. But the Long Island Consortium for Equity and Excellence, we're in year 2 of that, but clearly we want to continue the focus and bring those resources back to our school community. Obviously, everything that IB does is really focused on equity and diversity and inclusivity. So one of the biggest things that we loved about being a part of IB is just that. And so continuing in that area. In terms of ensuring a positive school culture, boy, I'm really having trouble with this. I'm just going to, enhancing a positive school culture. One of the things that we know we want to do is ensure that we have that positive school culture. We are seeking to attain the No Place for Hate designation. You can see that in there. That is something that we believe very strongly we should have a school focused on that. And so when we accomplish those kinds of things, we are focusing on a lot of things, including the equity and excellence conversation. We're advancing that, and we are eliminating any kind of bullying behaviors. So all of those things combined really put us in a place where we're, I think, on our way in terms of these goals toward achieving much of what we'd like to achieve as a district, and really setting a focus that we can follow for the rest of the school year in terms of the goals. So I present those for the board as well as a follow-up.
Do need to have that additional attachment with our targets, right?
Yeah,
So
we
our
have,
mastery and
So those are, we need to figure out, again, that's a conversation. This weekend, from Saturday to Tuesday, was the New York State Council School Superintendent's Conference. And Tuesday morning, I was fortunate to have, it was remote this year for us. So I was in my office trying to do my work and listen to the conference and connect with some of my colleagues throughout the state, which was an interesting experience. But at the same time, on Tuesday, I did have an opportunity to hear from Commissioner Rosa, who spoke very specifically about, some of those things like Regents exams and stuff like that. So when we get some very clear guidance from them on how they're proceeding with all of the assessments, we should be able to absolutely move forward with that, George.
And okay, and where are we with regards to the anecdotal data that we talked about collecting as well to supplement?
Landon with George.
Yeah, so I have been in conversation with teachers. We are planning on doing a series of different surveys. So I think we're going to be getting some data from social emotional screeners. We're going to be getting some data from teacher surveys, and also just direct from individual departments, grade level groups in terms of anecdotal data. And it's going to span, not just academics, but social emotional, things that are working in the building, things that need improvement in the building. And the culture, the climate, the school climate survey is a survey that will be given to students, teachers, and families, and it comes from 3 perspectives, and that's going to give us numbers, but the basis of that data are there's a lot of narrative in how that survey is put out. So they asked very specific questions about, and the school culture and climate is not just focused on some of the things like SEL. It focuses on SEL, academics, the support that teachers feel that they're getting, support that students and families feel that they're getting, how their comfort level in the school building, their academic needs being attended to. So we will get statistics in that and some narrative feedback.
And we'll be getting anecdotal data from Mr. Soto as well about professional development.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We will.
I assume that survey that's going out, the climate survey, I think you just called it, Raina, we're going to be making adjustments to the questions and including some of the hybrid things that we've been doing and so on and so forth.
So that's an interesting question, because specifically the school climate survey is it's a Department of Education survey, but some of our, I would say, the work that we're doing because of the remote hybrid learning scenarios will kind of come out of our customized questions that we push out there that we've kind of been doing, over the course of the last few months anyway. Like, I think we will cycle those through again as people have been using new applications, have been living this environment for a while, that feedback will change. So I think the anecdotal information will come in a variety of forms. I've already started talking I did speak with union leadership on how to best kind of hold that feedback, at least from teachers, in. So it's in process, but I think we'll get, between the SEL surveys, the SEL screener for the students, the school climate survey, and our own kind of typical surveys that we have been doing throughout the last few months, we'll get some good feedback. And usually we do a staff survey around November, December anyway, like that annual survey. And that is where we've received a lot of anecdotal feedback in the past.
Okay.
Raina, just a quick question.
One more thing, George. One of the suggestions from the buildings in terms of how to get more narrative feedback, we could potentially run, obviously without any information, run report card comments, because some of them can be specific. So that would give us an overview, just a cleaner way so it's not burdensome to individual teachers in terms of providing anecdotal data.
Right.
It would be just interesting to see, just to do a quick snapshot of what report card comments look like in a building, on a grade level, in a subject area. Because, every year we've had asks to add specific subject area comments, and I think the more specific we get in terms of comments and teacher requests to add comments, the more standards-based our grading system becomes. You know, it's not just a number, but there's another layer of feedback that can really help drive, you know, improving
Right.
students'
I
experience.
just want to make sure that we have some measurables
Yeah,
that we can look to, especially if assessments start falling by the wayside again, as they did last year, as the state made those decisions. Because we didn't really have data at the end of the last school year, right? We lost out on some of our data points. So,
you know, we will have some different baseline assessments with right reason in the middle school in terms of school improvement, because we're implementing that's new this year. So we'll be able to look at that. That is going to be, you know, strictly growth data. It's not connected to APPR. It's literally another layer of academic data in ELA and mathematics. So we'll still have report card data, and the other piece is really creating this data, you know, individual data profiles, and these profiles will go out to parents. They'll have the SEL screener information. They'll have the benchmark data on there. And eventually, all in one spot, they will have report card data as well as any other assessments that they may take.
We
okay.
also have AP data too, correct? Because that's the only test that really high school students took. So we have that as well.
Yeah, we have last year's AP data,
Yeah.
well, and that comes in a variety of different ways in terms of the way, you know, like, so College Board provides us with a variety with reports, trends in terms of our AP data as well.
Rena, how many people took the SATs on Saturday? Do you know? The turnout?
I'm just thinking of the setup. I know, they're not all ours. I want to say, let me give you I can find out from.
Oh, no problem. We did accept other students from other districts, or it was just our district?
We always do. Yeah. And
Other districts.
it's usually like a 50-50 split in terms of our population. But I can get you a firm
So
number.
this year, if we were accepting other students this year, we did.
Yeah.
We do. When you're a testing site, you basically say how many spots you'll have, and then as people register. So it's when you become a testing site, you take on that obligation.
Gotcha.
Are we exploring the possibility of administering those tests during our school day?
Yeah, that's what some schools are doing.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, we do we've always, for the last, I don't want to say 10 years maybe now, we've been doing the PSAT. That's coming up October 13th. Yeah, next
I'd like to see if we could get the SAT and the ACT administered during the school day.
Yeah, I mean, that would give us more of a, you know, a captive audience, and I think, and again, it's going to give you not just an additional data point, but it's going to give you additional norm data against national standards. And
Right.
ACT and SAT are very, very, you know, they have the same statistical base, and they're the type of test that they are. It's different students. You know, students choose to take one or the other or both. You know, that performance, and if the students who have taken both, it's very, very interesting to look at, because, you know, the format of those tests, the approach to those tests are different, but they are both
Right.
considered, you know, high stakes tests and helpful as you're getting the whole picture of a student.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any other questions? Marcus?
Yeah, I'm not sure this is the right moment to discuss it, but I think a lot of these homegrown measures probably should be discussed for inclusion in our goals, right? To kind of compensate for the disruption that we're seeing in a lot of the state testing, and to really round things out in a way that we can control and in a way where we know the schedule, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thank you, Marcus. I knew you had something. I knew you did. So we can probably move to adopt the goals next meeting, right?
We actually had it on this meeting.
Oh, we can adopt. Oh, okay. All right. I'm fine with that. I'm good with them. I don't know how everybody else feels. Robin,
I'm fine with that.
Danielle,
I'm good.
Tom,
Good.
Thomas, John, or John Thomas, Marcus.
Good.
No time like the present.
Okay. Oh, good. I'm glad. I must have missed that. I'm glad that we're adopting them tonight. And, appreciate the work on it.
Yep.
I know we did a lot of the heavy lifting was done last year. And I just do want to reiterate, though the format of these goals has evolved in the last few years, they've been pretty consistent now. As for the last few years, we've made some significant additions, but we've kept many of the things that were there in the past. So it's a good blend. It's a good blend, and we just want to make sure that we get that additional document as soon as we have all of that data available. I think that's an important piece to it. So fantastic.
Do we have a timeline for that or no? Should we make a timeline for the data or?
By lunch tomorrow.
Excellent.
Timelines are built into the SMART goals, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're in the administrative part of the goals.
Okay.
So we do
So
that.
thank you again for all of that. All of it.
Thanks.
Sure. That concludes, I'm not yet done unless you're done with me, George.
Wait. Well, hold on. Are you going off the agenda here? Because it was Board of Ed goals.
You're still talking about goals?
Okay.
All right. No, I'm not talking about goals anymore. I'm still in the superintendent's report, so I feel like I'm at the table.
All right.
Okay.
So, just not to steer away from, what we're doing with the reopening adjustments and things like that. Just to follow up on our special meeting last Thursday. We've already begun the work. We've got the partitions ordered and starting to mock up classrooms at Clayton Huey. So lots of, thank goodness for our wonderful custodial team. They're doing, already out there moving furniture and trying to get things going for our, targeted reopening adjustments. But we are also talking to the, middle school, high school teachers, very close to, within a week or so, we'll be able to talk about specific dates for, number one, a live synchronous model for instruction and moving toward also the potential for, potentially some more days added into the mix, but nothing yet in terms of timelines, but we're getting much closer on that. And we should have something in the week.
Thank you, Ron.
You're welcome.
Are we good?
Yeah, we could go to questions and comments regarding tonight's
Okay. All right. Thank you for that update. So questions and comments regarding tonight's agenda only from the public. This is an opportunity if you wish to speak or have written letters to the board, topics included on this agenda. But again, there'll be another question session at the end of the agenda. So is there anybody who wants to comment? Bill?
No hands raised yet.
Okay. We don't generally get questions in this section. Right. We usually get them at the end. We're good, Bill?
We're good. No hands.
Okay. All right. So,
George, can we wait 1 second? I just want to clarify something when it comes to the committees, the Board of Education committees, because I think there's a little bit of a discrepancy I was poking around the website this afternoon, and I think it says that people have to apply for membership, and there was a specific cutoff date to be on to be a committee member, and I want to just clarify that because I don't think that that's what any of us had intended.
Oh, no, we'll correct that,
Yeah.
Rob, and
Okay. Yeah.
We're actually in the process of, actually, and I will, I'm going to continue on my superintendent's report. Sorry, George. We have company Syntax is actually redoing our website, and I anticipate a presentation to the board on the 28th from Syntax. They're doing just really great work. We've met with them a couple of times to talk about that, and so it enables us to do a few things. Number one, Robin, all those things will get cleaned up for us. That's
Yeah.
not accurate. And number two, and number two, it'll enable us to not host our website on our server, and that will be better for us in terms of security, cybersecurity, and things like that. So anyway, that will be coming next week as well, and we look forward to that presentation coming up.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Are we good? Everybody's good?
Yep.
I don't know who I'm asking this to. I'm going to ask Kerry. Kerry, do we need to just change Roman numeral 11 policy down by the policy reading on page 8?
Yeah, Janine, you have that change, right? Dr. Sarah, change for the policy.
It's part of the consent. It's part of the consent agenda.
Yeah. So what's going to happen, I sent you a text on that, Gene, and I had asked, but maybe you didn't hear me. What we're looking to do is waive the readings on our social media policy. So just change that to read that we will waive the third reading and accept the policy as written.
Exhibit 10.
So page
8.
Page 8, Roman numeral 11.
Exhibit number 10.
Right, because that is part of our consent agenda, so we should certainly make sure that everybody knows that's our intention. Otherwise, we wouldn't read it out specifically, unless we want to remove it from the consent for that purpose, but I don't think we need to. As long as everybody's aware that that's what we're doing.
I'm good with
That
it.
you mean?
But I haven't noted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janine.
Thank you.
All right, I think I'm supposed to do the approval of minutes, right? That's my job, I think.
Yes.
I can never remember from meeting to meeting, I swear. I'm just going to go ahead and read it.
We're going to make you a cheat sheet.
You know, when we were sitting in the boardroom, I could whisper to Pat, and she would tell me, I'd be like, Pat, what's going on? Who's reading this? But we're via Zoom, and Janine and I have not sat near each other, so it's hard. I don't get the elbow in the ribs. So I'm going to go ahead and read the approval of minutes.
Thank you.
No, thank you. The Board of Ed is asked to accept the minutes of the following meetings as prepared by the district clerk. Minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Education on September 16th, 2020. Motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, motion carries unanimously. Janine, you want me to just keep going?
If you can hear me, I don't mind doing it. So as long
Okay.
as you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
We're up to financial. All right, great.
Yeah.
Okay. Financial reports. Be resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, accepts the following financial reports. A, budget transfer general, October 2020. B, internal claims audit report, August 2020. C, treasurer reports, July 2020 and August 2020.
Motion?
Motion.
Motion?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Motion carries unanimously.
Consent agenda vote. Be it resolved, a motion to approve the consent agenda, asterisk agenda items or consent agenda items. Consent agenda items are approved via a single vote unless they are removed from being a consent item prior to the vote, which we just removed one item. We can solicit a motion.
Motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. And I know we said this already, but I do just want to acknowledge again OLA of Eastern Long Island for the generous donation of 75 more Chromebooks. Certainly extremely helpful to us and the students and the families. So I do want to just point that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also in there, we would certainly Michael Donovan for his donation with all of the East End. Agree, George. But also in there, we are recognizing a couple of very special teachers
Yep.
from Santa Moriches on their tenure. So they, they were part of the consent agenda, but I'd be remiss if we didn't recognize Lauren Matinka as a teaching assistant in the high school, who has done an extraordinary job, and we want to recognize her for her tenure. Ricardo, you can speak. Tracy, I see you waving your fist.
I
That's
see you,
great.
Tracy.
And then Lauren, wonderful. Good to see you guys. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Well deserved, Lauren. We're really excited that you're now a permanent member of our team. So, Ricardo, do you want to say anything?
Sure, absolutely. Good evening again, everyone. I just want to begin by echoing something that Dr. Massara said during his superintendent's report, which is that we definitely do miss being present with you guys, especially on an evening like tonight, because this is an evening that we normally would celebrate with cake in the background, a lot of hugs and a lot of handshakes, and a lot of celebrations as a result of someone receiving tenure, which in our field, the field of education, it's a very momentous occasion. Someone that is up for tenure at the recommendation of the superintendent to the Board of Education has truly lasted sort of the test of time. They've gone through a rigorous hiring process. They've, especially these two individuals that we're recommending this evening, Lauren Hentica, as well as Michelle Montpetit, they have dealt with my crazy questions at times during my interviews, and I apologize. I think I apologize every interview that I give. I just like to give multi-layered questions to determine someone's processing ability and their memory, and they both performed extremely well. Lauren came to us 4 years ago as a teaching assistant. She started her career in East of Suffolk BOCE. She worked as a self-contained teacher in a very similar program that what we have now at the secondary complex, which she works in the 811 program with her co-teacher, Tracy Sigerson, who was the one that just kind of waves her hands up in celebration for this momentous night. And I still recall the moment that we interviewed Lauren. One of the things that I think I was most impressed with Lauren was her sense of poise. One of the things that we watch as a committee of individuals that interviews people, and you sort of get the knack of this as you conduct multiple interviews, and I can't count the amount of interviews that I facilitated and participated in throughout my career, but it really was interesting to see how poised Lauren was from the beginning of the interview to the end. And her sense of confidence, her ability to articulate her ideas in a meaningful, cogent fashion, translates truly to her performance in the classroom. She is an excellent educator. She is always calm despite the situation, which if you know our classroom, sometimes our students can be somewhat challenging. So I am always impressed whenever I walk into the classroom and I've watched Lauren Hentica present lessons in such a controlled fashion. She understands instruction. She understands differentiation of instruction. She loves kids. She's a great communicator. She gets along with all her colleagues. There isn't really one negative thing that I've ever heard in all the 4 years that I've evaluated her, that I've worked closely with her, that I've got to know Lauren. It is only positive things. And I strongly believe that she will continue to do great things in the district as she continues to continue her career with us. And it is without hesitation, without a doubt, that I feel very comfortable endorsing Lauren's tenure to our superintendent of schools, Dr. Massaro, for his recommendation to the board for tenure as a teaching assistant in the Center Moriches School District.
Wow.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's a mouthful, huh?
Thank you.
Lauren, congratulations. And then, you know, of course, the other one, we're going to make a card go through this again.
Yep. Again,
I think I saw Matt in there too, Michelle, in a second.
I'm usually used to pausing at that point because that's when the person would come up, we would hug them, we would hand them flowers.
We may or may not be visiting you guys again tomorrow with some flowers or something.
Yes.
You know?
I didn't have a plan in the morning. I didn't want to put that out there, but yes.
But also,
the flowers.
Also, you know, I'll toss to Ricardo again because, you know, again, you know, I'm only a year in, but, you know, it has been my pleasure to see you guys and what you do, you know, every day in such a special environment, in such a special, caring way. But I'll toss over to Ricardo to say some nice things about you, Michelle.
The second individual that I have the pleasure of talking about is Michelle Monpetit. I've known Michelle now for 9 years. And she started in 2011 as a teaching assistant, once again in our 811 program. She received tenure in that position in 2014. She served multiple leave replacement positions with us as either a self-contained teacher or in our direct consultant teacher program. And in 2016, she was awarded a probationary special education position, which is obviously the 4th year that she's serving now. Michelle is one of the things I think I love about Michelle, and I'm going to kind of put you on the spot, Michelle. I apologize for this, but every time I've observed her, every time I've had conversations with her regarding her instruction, regarding her plan, she comes with a tremendous amount of energy. She comes with a folder of material. She's excited to talk to me. And it is always a pleasure to have a conversation with Michelle, either about instruction or something regarding her students, behavior management skills, ABA techniques, whatever the case may be. But she exudes such a tremendous amount of enthusiasm, which I've always loved about Michelle. So I have had the pleasure of watching Michelle Monpetit evolve into the educator that she is today. And it has been a great journey that I've gone with Michelle. And it is something that I am very proud to see her evolution as she's come a long way in terms of becoming a TA with us and now a certified teacher. She's a great instructional individual. She understands differentiation of instruction. She loves the kids. She's an advocate for her kids. She's able to manage, and this is something that I look for whenever we look at a self-contained teacher, is not just the management of students, but also the management of personnel. She works in the classroom where we have students that do require the assistance of a one-to-one aide. So not only does she have to manage the instructional and behavioral programs of students, but she also has to work in concert with the staff that work in her classroom. And she is able to do that effortlessly through her great organization skills, attention to detail, her procedures that she's established in the classroom. So she is truly a phenomenal educator. In addition to her performance in the classroom, she holds multiple certifications, which is something that we look for when we're hiring someone because it allows us a tremendous amount of flexibility in the scheduling process, filling gaps that we may have within the building. So throughout the years, she has served as a self-contained teacher. She has served as a DCT teacher. She also has served as a literacy specialist within the district as well. So she has done it all. She's a great educator. She's a great colleague. She's a great asset to the district, and I only see incredible things moving forward as she continues her journey with us, which I would probably predict would be for probably another 25 years. So congratulations, Michelle, and once again, I wholeheartedly, without hesitation, without any doubt, recommend to the superintendent of schools, Dr. Massaro, that he makes his recommendation to the Board of Education for tenure in the Center Moriches School District as a special education teacher, and it is well-deserved, Michelle. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been an honor to be a part of the community, so thank you so much. I appreciate
Thank you.
Congratulations
Thank
to
you
you
guys
both.
for being here too.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you know, it's just so nice to be able to celebrate the good people who work here in our community and to have a little bit of happiness in our meeting tonight. You know, it seems that lately everything that we talk about is tough things that we're going through. So to be able to celebrate you guys tonight, the both of you, and the tremendous amount of work you're doing and the respect that you get from our administration is just such a wonderful thing. So congratulations to both of you. And Kerry, while I'm thinking of it, we're going to need to put a line item in the budget next year for cake because we owe so many people
Lots of cake.
cake and coffee. I think it's becoming a budget item for next year. So congratulations again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
I think, Ron, is there anything else that we need to cover from the consent?
No,
I don't think so, right?
We would just move on to the next one.
Yep. Okay.
That would be,
Janine?
the adoption of the goals, it looks like was not asterisk. So we would, on the agenda.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
To the policy that was pulled out of the consent. Can you hear me?
No.
No.
Well, I could hear you a little bit, but I think she's referring to the policy reading that we waived.
It was pulled off the consent.
I don't think we pulled it out of the consent. We
We'll do
just,
the policy reading, but can you guys hear me?
you're breaking up, but I don't think we pulled it out of the consent. We just waived the third reading.
So the policy reading will have to,
Okay,
we pulled it out.
okay.
All right, so that was, all right, understood. All right, that's when it was adopted.
So we're
Now
adopting it.
Going back to the final Board of Education goals 2021, be it resolved that on the recommendations, you're adopting it. Am I being heard? No.
Yes.
Not really.
Am I audible?
Yes.
I haven't heard anybody else now.
In and out.
Is
Yeah,
anybody hear me?
I'm having a hard time.
That's sad.
Should I just read the goals resolution?
All right,
Okay.
George, do you want to take that last policy? Thank you, yes.
All right, so I guess I should be resolved. So I'm going to go back to the policy. Be resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education waives the third reading and adopts the following policy, social media policy. Is that accurate? Motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes, motion carries unanimously. So now I'm going to go down to, it's Roman numeral 13. Board of Education Goals 2020, 2021. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education hereby adopts the Board of Education goals for the 2020, 2021 school year as presented to the board at this meeting. And that, of course, we'll include that other document with it as well as once it's finalized. Motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes, motion carries unanimously.
Wait, I just have a question. That's got to be posted on the website then after today.
We'll get that posted.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
New business?
None.
None? Discussion items? I think we're good, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Marcus?
Good.
Good, okay. So this brings us to the general public. Members of the public who desire to address or to question the board on any topic related to board work are welcome to do so. Requested to limit their remarks to no more than 3 minutes, to appoint a spokesman if the concern is a group concern, and to supplement verbal presentations with written reports if necessary or desired. So is there anybody out there use that hand raising function And Bill will get you unmuted. And if you could just introduce yourself
Okay, I
as
have
well,
one.
that would be fantastic.
Sorry,
Okay.
we have one. Patrick Murray.
Okay, so hi, everyone. I'm sorry to disappoint. It's not Patrick Murray, it's Patrick's
he
mom.
doing?
He's doing well, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, he's good. My question, first of all, I have Miss Montpetit as my daughter's teacher at the middle school. We are thrilled. I'm so delighted for her that she has gotten her tenure. She's well deserving. My question is, when will the school district be reassessing the possibility of possibly getting 5-day-a-week instruction for special ed students? I know that neighboring districts like William Floyd and Longwood and plenty of districts around the island are doing it. So I'm just curious as to if this is in talks. Thank you so much for all you do. Thank you.
Yes, Mrs. Murray. First, please, thank you for your comments there. Please send our best to Patrick. We certainly hope he's doing, is he still at Notre Dame, by the way?
Yes, he
Or
is.
so
He's
they haven't
there.
done remote, he's there, good. Good, I
He's
hope
there.
he's enjoying his experience. But
Thank you so
secondly,
much.
we are constantly reevaluating, and that is a priority for us. We are looking to get all of our, Wednesday is a day that we, are looking at now, and we should be getting information out in the coming weeks, or hopefully within a week about what our plan is and timeline to move forward to getting, an additional day for our students with special needs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill?
No other hands.
No other hands. Everybody wants to watch the Yankee game, I bet.
Oh, wait, we have one. Hold on.
Okay.
Colleen.
Hi, my name is Colleen Jones. I have children in the high school. I just wanted to go on record and say how important it is to get these kids back in school and get live instruction to them any way possible at this point. It's really becoming a concern. And I just wanted it out there and on record that, we're really rooting for these kids to get live instruction.
Thank you, Colleen. We appreciate that. And we're pulling for the same thing as well. So your voice is heard, and we appreciate you coming and taking the time. So thank you very much. Ron, did you have?
No, I agree. I think, that's definitely something that we last Thursday and reiterate today is priority for us.
Yeah, and it's hard, like when you're seeing other school districts going back and you just ask why isn't it us? So if you could just keep us up to date, keep us posted. And also make sure your staff knows when they're answering the phone calls, because last time I was referred to go to a social media post to find out what the updates was, and it kind of frustrated me as well. So I just want to put that on record as well.
Okay, we'll certainly look into that and make sure that, that should not be a response when somebody calls the school, certainly.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Bill?
Hold on. Let's see. No hands now.
Okay. All right, so then that brings us to informational items. Nope, we adjourned first, right? So motion to adjourn and to move into executive session to discuss other matters, the disclosure of which would result in an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. Motion.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion carries unanimously. And then just some informational announcements here. The next Board of Ed meeting is Wednesday, October 28th of 2020. In the boardroom, administration building, exec session at 6 o'clock, action meeting approximately at 7. So that's the public meeting, virtual via Zoom, Center Moriches, New York. I think Dr. Massera touched on this at the beginning of the meeting, but we do anticipate that we will be back in some form in one of our facilities in one of our rooms, depending on the way we need to structure it for a live Board of Ed meeting. So we'll get that information out to everybody, how that will work out for October 28th. And of course, if we have something in between, we'll get that out to you as well. So thank you very much, everybody, for logging on tonight. Bill, thanks for moderating. Janine, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I don't know if they're
Thank
still
you.
on, but
George.
okay. Thank you, everybody.